My background is 35 years in the Navy, and I have to tell you that in the Navy, we believe in precision in maritime pictures. You can't do the big hand, small map. It very much matters where you are on the chart, and in the Navy, we call them charts, not maps. You want to be on the blue section. You don't want to be on the beige or green section when you're on a ship, and it makes a big difference, just a couple of 100 meters here or there, as to whether you can do that. And this really was one of the driving principles in this project that you're about to see, is getting the facts right and getting the locations right in a maritime area in which great precision is required, both in knowing where things came from, why they were agreed, and where they are. The second principle that we wanted in building this project was the interactive nature of it, the flexibility of it. Too long in the South China Sea, national entrenched positions have been dominating the debate, lightly informed by facts, but not too much in terms of interactive facts. And what we are building here, as will be explained to you by Dr. Fravel and Dr. Karnikis later, is a tool that everybody who is interested in this subject can use to check out what different features are, what different claims are, and can come up with your own solutions. And we want to introduce some dynamism in the debate that's going on now. I think that there are solutions that the various different interested parties in this part of the world can come up with, and we hope to be able to foster that. As an example of that, let me give you something that I just learned in the last week. The Chinese claims on what they really mean by their 9-dash lines have been rather vague, and I received a clarification from 3 well-informed Chinese scholars when I was in Nanjing last week. And so I went to the site and charted it, and this is what I have. What these Chinese think tankers say is that what the 9-dash line means is that China claims the islands within it, those islands by the UN definition that can form the basis for territorial claims above the water and at high tide, and a couple of other requirements. So that's what they want, and they will draw their EEZs and their territorial seas around them. However, they do also believe that within an EEZ, and this is contrary to the beliefs of most of the major maritime nations of the world, warships, warplanes are allowed only innocent passage. In other words, they believe that the rights that the rest of the world expects of it within a territorial sea out to 12 miles apply out to the 200 miles. So I went to my handy map website and I tried it out. And if you do that, you find that the Chinese claim goes all around here. These are the EEZs from the land features. And what they don't cover is this. Under the Chinese claims, that would be the only place in which the US 7th Fleet, the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force, the Indian Navy would be able to hold exercises, operate helicopters, move their guns off the center line position. It would be a crowded little piece of the South China Sea, I think, there. But I think it does illustrate that a interpretation like that is completely unacceptable to the United States, and therefore we need to work on some other proposal. This is the kind of thing that you will be able to do with this site. We hope will move the debate, and that's our objective in it. Our partner in this objective has been the National Bureau of Asian Research, and Dr. Rich Ellings is heavily personally invested in bringing the power of interactive computer programs, good displays, and good facts to bear. And Rich, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Admiral Blair. You're a brilliant American leader and hero, and as you probably all know, a positive force of nature, and especially dear to us at NBR. As many of you know, Admiral Blair served as our first Shalikashvili Chair in National Security Studies. That was just prior to joining the Obama administration as Director of National Intelligence. It is indeed a privilege to partner with you, with Sasakawa USA, on an extraordinarily timely and important initiative. Many countries, as we know, are germane to this effort. That said, the United States and China are, in fact, the world's most powerful countries, and their effective relations, particularly where their interests may overlap or conflict, are essential to world peace, prosperity, and other essential values. China stands out in particular, and not only for its meteoric rise over the past 37 years. It is dissatisfied with many international circumstances, contests important global norms and regimes, remains intent on building its power further, and is extending the reach of its influence overseas while resisting fundamental reform at home, both economically and politically. Indeed, many specialists regard China's successful integration into a world system, a system in which we can all thrive together, as the principal international challenge this century. The maritime areas of the Asia-Pacific are where China's and a variety of nations' interests are shared, and yet where competing claims and escalating actions threaten international norms and peace. And as Admiral Blair just noted, interpretations of territory in at least in modern times, open seas, is a true challenge. Admiral Blair spoke about the importance of precision to operators. It's, of course, as he also indicated, important to scholars and specialists and to the policymakers they support. This kind of precision is born of identifying the facts, subjecting the facts to rigorous analysis, and in so doing, yielding the sort of clarity that makes policymakers' jobs easier and more effective. Accordingly, the purposes of this project are to determine the facts in the maritime areas and to explain what their implications are for the interests of the nations involved and more broadly for the prospects of positive international relations. The world's key decision makers need the best possible knowledge and strategic analysis upon which to base policy. Populations, the American people and other peoples around the world need to understand these as well. If you're a student of epistemology, and I know all of you are, then you'll appreciate that precision is also derived from the insights of specialists representing diverse backgrounds and perspectives. This is really important methodologically. In this regard, this project, reflective of everything NBR and Sasakawa USA do, is nonpartisan and reaches out to the top people in the world, the best specialists. We are so pleased to have several members of the project's International Advisory Board present today. We are indebted to them for the contributions they've made and will continue to be making in providing accuracy, texture, insights, and analysis that deal with all these terribly difficult issues in the maritime areas. I am pleased that my longtime colleague and friend Karlos Karnikis will provide a few minutes and an overview and demo of the platform. But first, let me welcome to the podium MIT Professor Taylor Fravel, the project's principal investigator, a specialist we are so pleased to have lead this project. Thanks.
Thank you very much to both of you for having the insight to launch this project and to put the support of your organizations behind it. I think nothing could be more timely. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a scholar of international relations, and I've been obsessed with territorial disputes in Asia since about 2000. And so I'm delighted to have this opportunity to be able to work on a project of this nature and scope. I wanted to talk briefly about the importance, to echo a few themes that were made earlier, and then I wanted to introduce sort of our methodology in a bit more detail and the members of the expert panel that we've put together to make this truly an outstanding resource for all involved. First, the way I think about this is enhancing geopolitical maritime domain awareness to improve understanding and to help promote solutions to maintain peace and stability in the region. In other words, there's a lot of talk in Washington today about increasing maritime transparency that often talks about events at the tactical level, what ships are doing at sea. But what we're trying to do here is really sort of widen the lens, if you will, and talk about sort of the geopolitical factors at play much more broadly. In this way, we hope that the Maritime Awareness Project will become a one-stop shop for all facts relating to maritime disputes in East Asia and eventually to other maritime areas in the world. What this means in terms of facts are what each country's positions are, what each country's claims are, where those claims are located, how they might overlap with others, and so forth. In this way, we hope to do two things. One is to reveal the complexity of these disputes. They are very complex. If this was an easy problem to solve, it would have been solved. And secondly, to underscore the consequences of not addressing these disputes, because as I'll talk about in a minute, they involve many public goods, which the Admiral has already mentioned as well in terms of freedom of navigation. So that's the sort of the big picture is enhance this idea of enhancing geopolitical maritime awareness and sort of creating a one-stop shop for all the facts one might need to think about how to address this problem. Secondly, by bringing all these facts to bear, we hope we can do different kinds of analysis. Sort of in the first phase of the project, what we've done is to focus on states' claims to territorial sovereignty, their claims to maritime jurisdiction, other claims they might have, such as the 9-dash line, the actual control of disputed features in the South China Sea, the location of key incidents that have occurred, as well as background to those incidents, and the natural resources and other public goods that are at stake. Taken together, this we hope will allow for new kinds of analysis to be done, and again, based on actual facts. So just to throw out some examples. Where are the main hydrocarbon deposits located relative to the exclusive economic zones claimed by the various states in the region? And where are those hydrocarbon deposits located relative to the 9-dash line? What are the location of so-called low tide elevation relative to the continental shelves of states in these disputes? The panel that's hearing the Philippine case against China may come to some rulings about the territorial entitlements of low tide elevations. We will be able to show you where those are and what that means. The location of occupied features. Who is controlling what feature where? And in some cases, it's quite complicated. Take, for example, Tizard Bank. You have one Taiwanese-controlled feature, Ituaba, 3 controlled by Vietnam, and 1 controlled by the PRC, and they are all within roughly 50 miles or less of each other in kind of one feature. Just think about, for a minute, the potential for some kind of incident to happen there and how quickly it could expand to other features that are held by other claimants. We can also show the location of major shipping routes. And key elements, we can show the location of major shipping routes and where that might overlap with the features that are occupied, how close or how far are they from the features that are occupied, and how vulnerable those shipping routes might be to tensions in the area. Finally, we can even show where the territorial sea claims from the different rocks and islands in the Spratlys might overlap with each other, which is a very thorny problem if states get more exercised about exercising jurisdiction. So this just gives you a flavor of some of the analysis that can be done, and some of the analysis that we hope we just won't do in the project, but that the community who wants to address this problem will also be able to do. We couldn't do this, though, without the help of the international expert panel. As Rich mentioned, we want this to be fact-based. We want this to represent the perspectives of all of those who are directly involved, in other words, all those who have claims in these disputes, but also those whose interests are immediately affected. And towards this end, we stood up this panel, and it combines experts with functional expertise in certain areas and then regional expertise in particular parts of Southeast Asia. And what I wanted to do briefly is just to introduce them. Some of them are here today and will be speaking in the panels that we've organized for you this afternoon, but I'm going to go through all of them right now. Starting first with the functional dimension of the international expert panel, we have 2 individuals who are leading authorities on international maritime law. The first is James Kraska from the Naval War College, and the second is Dr. Justin Nankavel from the Daniel Inouye Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies. We've got 2 international lawyers to bring their insights to bear on these problems. With regard to energy, we also have two noted experts. First, Dr. Michael Herberg from the National Bureau of Asian Research, and second is James Manicum, who is an independent scholar from Canada. And then in terms of sort of the geopolitics and the institutions of Southeast Asia, as well as the role of sort of maritime law enforcement vessels, we have two experts with us, two experts who have joined the panel, Dr. Ian Story from the Institute of Southeast Asian Studies in Singapore, and Ms. Carrie Lynn Nankavel, also from the Daniel K. Inouye Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies. Turning to the region, the other sort of half of the international expert panel, if you will, brings together regional experts from those in countries who have either claims, as I mentioned, or have direct interests in how the disputes evolve. This includes Dr. Ramil Benlawi from the Philippine Institute for Peace, Violence, and Terrorism Research, Dr. Ian Chong from the National University of Singapore, Dr. Hong Nong from the Institute for China-American Studies, and I should also add that Hong Nong is an expert in international law as well. Dr. Tabitha Mallory for the National Bureau of Asian Research, who's an expert in fisheries in the region. Rory Metcalf from the Australian National University. Dr. Safia Muhabat from the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Jakarta, Indonesia. Dr. Hong Thao Nguyen from Vietnam National University, Sumathe Permal from the Maritime Institute of Malaysia in Kuala Lumpur, Dr. Ryo Shahashi from the Japan Center for International Exchange. So that is the broader team, and without them this would not be possible. So let me also thank you now for participating in this important project. The last group that actually deserves to be thanked even before we get going is the project team itself. And two individuals I'd like to highlight before then talking about Karolos would be Jeffrey Hornung from Sasakawa Peace Foundation and Tiffany Ma from MBR. Without these two individuals, we would not have this website. And the third individual that is responsible for the website and actually knows how to build a website is Karolos Karnikis. He's the third member of the map project team, and we wouldn't be able to have an interactive map without Karlos's technical expertise. I came up with all the ideas of things we ought to be able to display, and then Karolos said, well, I don't know if I can display those. Or I said, we really should display this, and he went and figured out a way to do it. So special thanks are due to Karolos and for the role that he's played in putting this together. So I invite you to the podium now to provide an overview of the project. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you all for coming. In the early stages of this project, the word platform came up a lot in our discussions, and I think it's a good word for us to use in a couple of different ways, as Taylor and Rich have described the importance of this network of experts and giving them a way. The organizational framework of the project really provides a platform for them to be engaged in this important work. And then in my domain, more in the information and technology domain, of course, platform has a more concrete meaning. And in this case, we're talking about an information and presentation platform that needed to be very flexible. And as going back to some of those early discussions, as Taylor was describing, there were lots of, well, could we show this and this, or how do we overlay this on this, and would you be able to pull in data from this source? So there was a lot of focus on data sources, and how we might bring those sources together in a useful way. And so, of course, a key component, as you would imagine, as you've seen a glimpse of in Admiral Blair's talk, is our interactive map. And so I'm just going to walk you through our map, and then we're going to look at some other areas of the site. But just starting, and Sheldon is going to help navigate with the top one, incidents. And as Taylor mentioned, this is one key thing we wanted to do is be able to show, you hear about these things, where are these things happening, where and what in relation to the other incidents, where are they happening, and in relation to other features. So being able to just get those on a map and then provide some details about what happened, and then links out to news sources, other related resources related to whatever incident you're looking at. So that gives you a sense. We're just looking at, yes, the Triton Island freedom of navigation operation. So let's look at, work through. So the next layer here, we're looking at occupied features. These are the features that are under control of specific states. And maybe you can go over to Mischief Reef. There we go. Good. Okay, so you can see here on Mischief Reef, we have provided just some basic information. Importantly, you'll note we've included the various names for these features. They're known at times, by different countries in different ways, so we thought it was important to include all of the different variations on names, which you'll see there in that second field. We've also, if you could pull that up again, actually, you can drill down. We've included satellite imagery for a number of these features, and this is an area that will continue to grow. If you can click on that. And you can see here we have an image that allows the user to zoom in and out of the feature, get close, look at the details. And then we've also provided different snapshots at different dates. So if you go back, that was first one was in January of this year, and this is showing June of 2015 and the changes that have taken place at Mischief Reef over those few months. Looking at our next layer, which we've named, and actually if you could expand, if you could expand the legend there just to show. So the legend in the map has additional information about different countries, and for all of the layers, there's information about the layer, providing in this case a key for the different color codings for these countries. So, looking at our next layer, this is a kind of a broader, we call it other features layer. Let's see. Oh, actually, would you mind checking the other features first, Sato? Yeah. So these are ones that we've placed in this category here. Really a wide range of reefs and underwater features, ridges, atolls, and they may or may not be part of conversations now, but it's good to have them up there. So if something comes up, you can find a way to dig in. All told, we have about 380 maritime features maps so far, and we will be looking to add more and more detail for all of them. Okay, so. Okay, so this layer here, we're looking at the EEZ boundaries, and this source, we actually pulled this from the Flanders Maritime Institute in Belgium, but it provides a good general sense of where these boundaries are. There was quite a bit of discussion among the expert panel about these lines, and so this is an ongoing area. It does include some hypothetical median lines as part of this data set. But anyway, those are drawn there. But to complement that, we actually went in and added the claims and baselines, and these are would be the maximum claims, and then the baseline claims, These are drawn from official documents, directly from official documents, treaties, different agreements. And so we went in and we pulled out the coordinates for those whenever possible, and actually entered them in and drew them on the map. This will be another area where I think a lot of additions are going to be made, and people will have opinions about this, and we'll be able to capture it here. One note on this for the China's dashed line claim: there have, to my knowledge, never been any specific coordinates published for that claim, and so we had to work back from an actual drawing, and we were able to use some Department of State analysis to try to get that as accurate as possible. And sure, Seattle, maybe you can, if you highlight, go ahead and highlight the other maritime features as well. Yeah, this is an example of the kind of things you can do. Being able to highlight, in this case, this is around the parasols, being able to show the different features, and then how the baseline claim is drawn, and then the 12 nautical mile zone outside of that. Okay. Okay, so, speaking of, 12 nautical mile. Okay, so this is really for illustrative purposes, and we actually put that in the legend here. We went and we went to a U.S. government maps, and we found all those features that were showing to be above water at high tide, and then we simply took a 12-mile radius ring and placed it on top of that feature. And again, it's just a ring. It's for illustrative purposes, but we've labeled those there. And as we go forward, I think this is an area where we can add precision. And but for now, this is to show what that looks like. Okay. Some other elements: air defense identification zones. And again, we've drawn those out and have, in China's case, we've built out a little profile description there. When appropriate, applicable, we will do that. So. As you're probably sensing, we had a lot of input from a lot of experts on different things we should display. So we tried to capture as much as we could. Port container traffic was another one. This is just gives a sense of quite interesting, actually. If you zoom out a little bit, you can see, and we extend down also to Singapore. Okay. Taylor mentioned we're very fortunate to have Tabitha Mallory, an expert on fisheries at NBR, and this is another case where she spent a lot of time digging into original language documents, primary sources, to try to figure out where these bilateral fishery agreements are located, and so we've put together the outlines of those, and then also provided a description of it. In addition to the bilateral agreements, there's also the FAO the FAO areas, and I know Tabitha will be speaking more about that later. So, and you can drill down and see some information on catch breakdowns. So, Taylor alluded to this earlier, being able to look at the oil and gas reserves. We've provided some statistics there, and that's from the 2012 U.S. Geological Survey. And we provided for all of these abbreviations and acronyms that seem so prevalent in this energy domain, we've tried to spell those out for those of us. Okay, so back out here for if you could zoom out. This is, I think, a particularly interesting layer. This is showing the approximate paths of the submarine data cables in the region, and we took two data sources. We were able to combine the one for the paths and the endpoints for these cables, and then another for the owners of the cables. And I think this is quite interesting to see. And again, these are not exact paths. It's important to state that, but they do give a good sense of where these are going. And I think for the purposes of the type of analysis, this could be a very useful indicator to include. And finally, this is an area of, I think, I'm very excited about this particular layer. It looks, someone once told me it looked a little bit like a Minecraft game, which I guess for those of you who know Minecraft, I think that's true. But this is showing the shipping density in this region. We don't have it for this full area, but for the immediate South China Sea. This is showing for July of 2015 the number of vessels that pass through a given quarter by quarter of degree area, and we have the numbers here listed here. Each vessel is counted once in that area, and so we will be publishing additional data on this for the full year for 2015. And then I've been working with Tabitha, for example, being able to query this data and identify, for example, how many of these vessels are actually fishing vessels, how many are tankers, what are cargo vessels, and so that can all inform the expert analysis. Okay, so that's what we have. Oh, a couple other things on the map. There's some useful tools up in the upper right-hand corner. We have a measuring tool, and it allows you to, you can choose different units. Nautical miles have been particularly helpful in this project, and measuring a distance with that tool. And then you're able also to change base maps depending on what kind of work you're doing. You may want to be able to have a different background view there. Okay, so moving on from the map, we have the analysis section of the site that this is going to be a very frequently updated portion of our site, posting new articles. We're starting with a couple here. We'll have more going up soon. And these are submissions from our panel, but then also from others. Yeah, in the profile section, let's go to. You could choose a country. Yeah, we've tried to capture in one page here some I think very interesting elements. If you look on the right-hand side, a little menu there, summary of claims, historical and legal basis for claims. Political statements regarding claims, and then actions to bolster claims. And in these as well, we have linked out to, for example, we provide links out to related resources here as well. So, okay. In the gallery, we talked about incidents on the map. But we've also provided them in a timeline format. Allows you to go through, drill down, and access information about each of these incidents. And right now we are covering going back to 2009 and to present time, and we are continuing to fill in, including past events on this timeline. For the imagery, I showed you earlier imagery that you can access from the map. Those same images are accessible through this gallery. and this is another area where we will continue to add to this list. Okay. Yeah, and then finally, infographics. Some of the we were having discussions with our panel and with our team. Not everything can fit on a map, and nor should it. And we need sometimes to have different ways of displaying important concepts. And so we have some interactive visualizations as well. We have just a few now. This is another area for growth, I think, for us. And then being able to track over time. Here's an example of bilateral trade in goods, imports and exports, I think in a very easily understandable format. And then finally, we have a repository of information on the official statements and documents. And then also a bibliography. And I think that pretty much covers the website. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. That's where we are now. We see a lot of potential going forward. Other things we could add, and we're very open. Really welcome your input. A lot of people in this room will have ideas about other things that could be shown in this on this site. So that finishes my remarks, and I think we will move now to panel 1.